Greetings, cemetery romantics. Shannon Scott, your fellow kindred out here in Bonaventure Cemetery on a beautiful Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. And I wanted to share with you a story of what I call Bonaventure's most romantic couple, buried over here in this very pretty aging plot of the Neal family, N-E-I-L-L. They were investment banking people, agrarian, plantation owner types throughout the 19th century, but for most of my life in Savannah, these two flat grave slabs, if you like, were covered up by azalea bushes. And when they finally cut them back, it revealed these two great slabs. And one bears the name on the left here, James Neal, actor, artist, gentleman. He was born in 1860, died in 1931, so pre-Civil War baby. And then his wife neighboring, Edith Chapman Neal, she was born in 1863 and died long after him in 1948. But, you know, the actor, artist, gentleman thing really caught my attention. He has a Shakespeare quote at the bottom of his grave, and I thought, who was this guy? Who were these people? Fascinating. And there were just a few crumbs around, but what I could determine really at first was that he owned a stockbroker kind of company or an investment company in Ohio. I want to say Dayton or Columbus, but don't quote me. And, you know, he fell in love with his secretary, Edith. And ultimately they marry. But the thing that really was their bonding hour, and it would carry them through the rest of their lives in many, many ways, they loved the stage. And so they started acting together. They were in lodge alley acts in upstate New York, like the Catskills. And while they were in their sort of early midlives, they heard about the motion pictures of California. So they headed out to Glendale, California in 1904. And we've all heard that kind of cliche expression, I'm ready for my close-up Mr. DeMille. Well, they were in his close-up not just multiple times, but together as a couple. They were in over 300 silent films. And then she was also invested in the talkies post-1927. But classics, Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, The Little American, The King of Kings. You know, that list goes on. And they befriended the likes of Lon Chaney. In fact, James Neal, and his first movie in 1905, I believe, was with Lon Chaney. It's called A Lost Film. It doesn't exist anymore. They befriended Gloria Swanson, quite a celebrity in her life. In fact, when they got married, James and Edith, she gifted them a silver tea set that they were often photographed using. But, you know, they were not A-listers per se, just kind of what we might call silent film era B-listers. But, you know, they knew Valentino. They were in movies with Valentino. Mary Pickford, Charles Coburn, who was also buried in Bonaventure. I mean, you know, that list of the, let's say, real A-listers of the period or whatever, you know, kind of goes on. But when the talkies came around in 1927, post-jazz singer, James Neal took on what I would call an acting coach life or persona. And then his wife Edith continued to work into the talkie world. And, you know, she was a much older woman in the 1930s and 40s. So she would often play, you know, kind of a scandalous aunt, you know, giving maybe a young flapper type, you know, bad advice or whatever it was. They were really kind of Harlequin romance bad, some of those movies. But yeah, it was the stuff of the time. And I'm sure it paid the bills. But James, sadly, died in 1931, although granted he was 71 years of age. And they brought James Neal to lay to rest with his family here in Bonaventure. And yeah, she continued to live out there in California. Who knows how often she got to come visit her beloved in Bonaventure. I mean, these were such together people romantically. It's hard for me to imagine that she didn't come out here periodically to maybe visit his family or, you know, whatever the case was. And it's one of those stories where I don't think they were anti-children, you know, or couldn't have children. I really think it was a story, and this is just purely my gut, that they really were devoted to each other. They were kind of like these childlike spirits of their own making inside of the world of being actors, and they just stayed true to each other. And partly I base that feeling or that conclusion because I've contacted silent film memorial, or rather memorabilia houses, and I probably have the most extensive collection of things of their their acting history. And, anytime I look at them and read about them, there's a depth there that's more than just artificial, like it might be in Hollywood today. It really feels like they were just genuinely in love. So I wanted to share two images with you. And one is very special for you guys. It's kind of my Valentine's Day gift to you guys. The first one is Edith as a young woman. This was a lobby card somewhere in New York when she was acting upstate New York. So it would have been in the lobby of the theater. And here is James Neal in a movie where he played kind of a yachting playboy with Rudolph Valentino. And I think this is maybe 1906, 1907. But yeah, that's them as, a couple in their 40s at that point, in a sense. So yeah, they're midlife. But yeah, they look great. But here's the gem of the gems, gang. This is a copy of my original 1924 photo from the Chicago Tribune archives. It is stamped with that archive stamp from the Tribune. But when they digitized all that old stuff, because yeah, it wasn't going to really last too long, they just imparted this out to dealers or whatever they did. And I was lucky to pick up this picture. So I have the original at my house. But this was sent from MGM studios to the newspapers of the world. And this was celebrating their appearance in the 1924 Cecil B. DeMille silent film classic, The Ten Commandments. But the real gem, if you will, of the picture was what was attached to the back by an MGM secretary, typed up on the old typewriter. And that was kind of standard fare, where they give certain advisement about the article theme and to be careful with the credits and all that stuff. But what really stood out to me, and I felt like this was the ultimate tribute to them, the headline, "Happily Married in Hollywood for over 50 years. And my friends, my parents have been together for 55 and claim they're more in love every day. But I don't know if you read that headline in Hollywood too much these days. I'm sad to report that, actually. I'm not being cynical, just kind of sad. But, I think that's the feeling that I really got from this story of these two. And I don't know everything yet, but they just really were genuinely each other's soulmates. And I thought, that's the story to share with you guys out there today on Valentine's Day. And yeah, my way of honoring them and the memory of them here in Bonaventure. But now they've been happily buried in Bonaventure for well over 50 years. Between 70 and 80 years now. But this is just one of those amazing plots that not a lot of people know about in Bonaventure. And I just thought, well, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go out here while the sunlight's pretty and just share a nice story about positive romance and coupling. I think our ears and our eyes are filled with all the contrary mostly. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. If you get to Savannah soon, come see me. I can be found at bonaventurecemetery.com, shannonscott.com. Bonaventure.cemetery on Instagram, and I've got Facebook pages as well. But I'd love to, tell you these kinds of stories in person. So if you've got friends and family heading this way, tell them to look out for Bonaventure Cemetery Journeys. Not tours, there is a difference, but Bonaventure Cemetery Journeys is my creation, and it would be an honor to romance you, in a sense, with stories in Bonaventure. So all the love in the world out there, guys, and thank you for sending me your love over many years of doing this. Happy Valentine's Day.